Hey, how y'all doing? Trying to get some folks in here. If y'all are some of my people, go ahead and start tapping the screen up. We can get some folks coming in here and having a conversation, you feel me? It's gonna be a good time. It's gonna be lovely. Hey, how y'all doing? I've had a couple of, hey from Bama, hell I'm in Alabama too. I've had a couple of tips on how to run lives or how to have some engagement on lives. So we're gonna see if it works. We're gonna try not to be up all night too. Try not to be. That don't mean it's always gonna work, but we're gonna do our little point. Can you see the points? Can you see the background good? I know you probably can't see the bottom of it good. But yeah, if y'all would, let's go on and get the likes going, get the conversation. How late you want to stay up? Not too terrible late, maybe about an hour and a half or something like that. I got hot rods to work on tomorrow. I probably should have done this background a little different. Oh, I need to, the economy would love to support that. It would love to support a minimum wage of $20. Let's get a little live goal set up and start it. Boy, I want 1,500 as live goal. Let's just do like 50. How about that? Did it pin it at the bottom? It can. It really can. I'm really talking about this. The one at the bottom really ain't. Don't you usually work third shift? Third shift where? I feel like I'm close to the thing. Look, somebody talking about my ears, you know, in a video I did. I ain't know my, yeah, we ain't too worried about the stuff that's under me. But I got a little cat nibbling on my ear video that I'm gonna stitch onto that comment, and it's gonna be funny. I'm trying to add in some of my humor into some of my politically charged content. You know what I'm saying? Because I feel as though when people humanize creators, it helps connect more of the message to people. You know. So we'll see. We'll see. Is good trouble in here, really? Yeah, Washington has a minimum wage of $17, but I would argue that minimum wage in Washington probably needs to be $25. You know, it's all subjective. That's something that abortion rights shouldn't be at the state level, but state minimum wage can be at the state level. But even then, we should have a federally mandated, probably $21.50, somewhere in that neighborhood, is what every person in the United States should be making right now at this current time. No one should be making under $21.50, and I'll stand on that business all day. And if you don't agree to that, then you just don't understand the economy and how stuff works. You're not supporting a labor economy. That's yeah, national wage is $7.25. But if you're not supporting raising the minimum wage like that, then you don't understand what a labor-driven economy is. And it's kind of wild because that's probably all you bring to the market is labor. So you're really like pewing yourself in the foot when you don't support those type of things, you know? How do we support? Yeah, $21.50. You support it by share. Did we get a gift goal start? Yeah, we got a little gift goal. Can we get that little rascal knocked out? That'd be nice. You support raising a minimum wage by supporting politicians that are union and labor backed. Right now, that's only the left. The Republican Party used to be labor backed, in the 50s, but it's changed. There's actually the United Kingdom actually has a party that's called the Labour Party, and it's for the labor of the workers. So right now we have an investment economy and not a labor economy. A labor economy, you get paid off the work that you do, but the economy we currently have, you get paid off the investments that you own, and that's why the business owners in Wall Street make a lot more money than the individual employee that's putting in the labor. You know, and that's a problem. That's a problem. So, yeah, we're getting our little gift goal knocked out. We're getting a little coffee made up, decaf, because it's already 10 minutes to 11 over here. Do y'all drink coffee? Do y'all have a favorite coffee mug? Do y'all have a coffee mug sometimes that you can't find, even though you know it's here somewhere, but you can't find it for hell or high water? You know? Be raggedy. So I went to the Target. Look, we got some 4K likes. So I start taking some opposition now that we got. The background says it should be a $20 minimum wage. Abortion is health care, and the U.S. would shut down without immigrants. You know. So if there's anyone that opposes those types of things, then we'll see what's up. You know. Even at 21, you spend every dollar you have, which goes back to the business. Yeah, 100% facts. If we raise the minimum wage, the velocity of the dollar would speed up exponentially, and the market would literally blow up. Can I say that? Can I say blow up online? Y'all getting gift badges and all that. I don't, first off, nobody can really be illegal, right? They can just be undocumented. All right? So that tells you where I stand on that. That probably answers your question. You know. Yeah, I'm not concerned. Like I said, I think that non-ops, not really right now. I'm trying to hold smaller and smaller panels. Trying to. The last one that I did worked out well, in my opinion. Everybody else may have not liked it, but it was a small little panel, and that I loved it. What is the minimum wage? The minimum wage is $7.25, unless you're an employee of the wait staff, like industry, that entire waiters, waitresses, stuff like that. If tipping is normalized in your position, then the minimum wage is $2.13 an hour federally, and that's a holdover from slavery. So we need to abolish that also. I know I walked off the camera. But I had to get me a spoon. You feel me? I had to get a spoon. But yeah, so we need to abolish wait staff minimum wage at $2.13. They paid more than minimum wage because of tipping, probably. Like that's how that would work. But tipping in itself needs to go away. We're really the only country that does that. I'm talking about the United States. I'm not sure if there's anyone else on this live or not. But like I said, tipping is a holdover from slavery, Jim Crow laws and such like that. So anytime that we pay people in that manner, we're upholding that system of oppression, right? Of basically waiting on someone hand and foot to try to make a dollar. And that's a raggedy ass way of doing it. People want to do a good job, for a living wage, right? So when we pay people adequately to do their job, they'll do their job well. That's how that works. And I know what you're saying, not everybody and all that type of stuff. And you're right. Not every single person, but we're talking about the asses here, right? We're not talking about the individuals. We're talking about the mass of folk. So that being the case, we as a community need to advocate for everyone to make a living wage, right? If the restaurants need to charge a little bit more money to do away with, to be able to pay that, then that's what we'll do. Not a problem. Not a problem. We're gonna let Doug go for a second. What's up, Doug?
Hey, how's it going, sir?
Doing pretty good.
So, I guess when you say abortion is health care, do you mean as far as elective abortions as well?
I'm just talking about abortions. They're health care, like they're coded as health care, and they're health care.
Okay, so you mean like abortion, like in a hospital, basically, like if abortion needs to happen in a hospital, it's coded as a health care.
Abortion, it only really has one code, no matter where it kind of happens at. If it happens inside of a clinic, if that's what you're getting at, of Planned Parenthood, then it's still health care.
Okay. Yeah, I guess in that aspect of the definition, I guess it could be argued, but it's kind of a hard argument. I guess my standpoint is that it's not right being pro-life, especially for elective abortions. It might get coded.
It's not right for you, or it's not right for everyone.
So I think that I think it's not right for anyone. I think that abortion is a basic human rights violation when it comes to the elective abortions.
Are you religious, sir?
No, sir.
Okay, so where are you drawing your conclusion that it's not right for everyone else? Why is your thoughts and processes need to be imposed on other people?
Certainly. So I think that having an abortion, I think terminating a human life is wrong. I can't think of any other social aspect or any other situation in our society where unjustly terminating a human life is acceptable. I don't know why this would be.
You said unjustly.
Right.
So does that mean that there's times when it's just?
As far as an abortion goes?
Mm-hmm.
So me personally, I have two exceptions. One, the medical exception when it involves the unalivement of the mother. Two, being pro-life, I know it's a hard pill for most pro-lifers to swallow, but I personally do give the SA exception under all pretenses.
Okay, so is that not a human life?
It is.
So why do you put a clause on it at times? Why is it not a human life in your instances, in your exceptions?
Well, I do believe it's a human life. The reason why I think it's an acceptable exception, as far as the medical exception, everybody has a right to self-defense. So if anything is threatening your life, you have a reasonable aspect of self-defense.
Do you know that pregnancy is life-threatening? Did you know that?
It can be. Not all pregnancies are life-threatening.
Pregnancy in itself is life-threatening. You realize that, right?
No.
Okay, pregnancies, there's a possibility that someone will be unalive, the pregnant person, right?
Possibility, yes.
That means that it is, in fact, life-threatening. Everyone that becomes pregnant is now in a life-threatening situation. Do you agree?
No, not all pregnancies are life-threatening.
And why not? They're all risky, right? They all have the risk of potentially being life threatening. So therefore, they're life threatening.
Well, I mean, they're not all life threatening. If you go, if a woman got pregnant and successfully gave birth to a baby, then it wasn't life threatening, right?
No,
Not
it was
all
life threatening the
pregnancies.
whole. It was life threatening the whole time. She just didn't lose her life.
No, I
But
would say until a medical professional said, if you are going to lose your life due to this pregnancy, then it's not life threatening. We're in a society today and age that we can absolutely tell that in most pregnancies, is that what you're talking about is a very pregnancy is actually a very low risk due to
okay, let's put it into man terms. Is going to war life threatening?
yeah,
Is going to a war life threatening?
yeah.
Why?
Um, because there's a risks that comes with war that is life threatening.
There are risks that go along with pregnancies that are life threatening.
Yeah,
Okay, so that means that it's life threatening. Do you understand that?
yeah. But that's in that
Okay, I'm
specific
glad we got there.
scenario.
No,
In
I'm
that
glad.
in that specific scenario, the two almost are unrelatable because whenever you sign up to go to war, trust me, I've been there. That's where 11B comes from. Um, you absolutely know and you understand those risks and the risk of going to war versus sustaining a pregnancy is vastly
You
different.
okay? I'll look up these numbers, and you're not gonna like this though. But the amount of people that sign up inside the United States to be inside the military and possibly go to an active war situation, the percentage of that person being unalive, I guarantee you, is a lot lower than the person that becomes pregnant and ends up with life complications, life threatening complications as a result of being pregnant.
Are
Do
you
you,
talking?
you
Are
do
you?
understand that, right?
So it depends on what you're talking about. Are you talking about everybody that signs up for the military?
Yeah, everybody that signs up for the military has a possibility to go to war, right?
Yes. However, in that scenario, right, like everybody has the possibility of going to theater, right? However, you have yeah, if you're going to introduce statistics like that, you absolutely have to introduce combat arms. For instance, I can give you the scenario of 11 Bravo
No, no,
infantrymen.
no, no, no. We're not getting into all those details. When you sign up for the
Well,
military, there's a possibility that you're going to go to war.
yeah,
Yes or
but
no?
a vast majority of people, there's more people that join the military than there are pregnant people. And in those scenarios,
Well, I
if
don't
you,
look. Wait. Realize what you just said and know that you're just unequivocally wrong because every person that signs up for the military is the result of a pregnancy. So therefore, you can't have more people signing up for the military than you have pregnant people because the people that are signing up came from a pregnancy.
you, you are completely your statistic is completely wrong. You're basically saying that women that are pregnant have more of a risk of unaliving compared to all the people that join the military. Basically,
That's
that's but
true.
what you
That's
just said
true.
is absolutely not, null and void of the point. And whenever you say that. Oh, details don't matter. Details absolutely do matter if you've never been in the military. Somebody that's intelligent or military intelligence or finance or things like that that go to theater have an absolute way lower risk than an infantryman uh,
No,
being
but
in
that
theater.
you're taking the point out of context. If you sign up for the military, there's a possibility that you're going to go to war, right?
Well, there's a possibility that you might end up in theater. Doesn't mean you're going to see combat.
Okay, there you go. There you go. So what you want to do is you want to take the people away from theater, from the front lines. And I never was in the military. I never did get brainwashed into that. But what you're trying to do is you're trying to say, well, those people over there, they're for sure not going to end up losing their life. So we're not even going to include those in our statistics. But we've got to include those there. Okay, we've got to take those into account. And what I'm saying is being pregnant with inside the United States is is going to be at more risk than signing up for the military, which somebody just posted this, and I'm not sure, I didn't look this up, but 13 and a half unalives per 100,000 in the military, and pregnancies is 22 per 100,000. I know that 22 is about right.
Yeah, and you know what? They're actually probably right on that, but that's where I say it's an unfair statistic, right? Like you're saying that everybody signs up for the military is number one going to go to war. That's not true. There's absolutely plenty of people that sign up for the military. In fact, the majority that end up not in a war zone. Number one, and number two, the people that do end up in a war zone, you absolutely have to include combat arms. For the people that are combat arms, like infantry that go into a war zone, an infantryman's life expectancy hasn't changed in a long time. It's literally 11 seconds. So the two statistics do not add up to each other.
They 100% do. If you sign up for the military, there's a possibility that you're going to go to war. If you get pregnant, there's a possibility that you're going to end up in a life-threatening situation from the pregnancy.
Yeah. So how do you relate the two statistics numbers?
Because I'm
Actual
telling you
numbers.
that being pregnant is more dangerous than signing up for the military. Do you agree?
That could be true. It could be. Until
Okay.
we see actual numbers, I'm not going to say yes, but I mean, I would say it could be.
Well, somebody posted them right there, right? So, so being pregnant is more dangerous than being in the military.
I mean, could be.
Well, somebody
I mean,
posted
let's
numbers.
say it.
I'm not.
Let's say it is. I mean, okay, I'll go with okay. It is. That still doesn't change my. Um,
You said the military.
outcome.
You said the military had risk, and being pregnant doesn't have risk,
No, I never said that pregnancy doesn't have risk.
sir. I'm going to post this on YouTube's.
Well, in the beginning of my statement, my stance, right? I said I gave the exception of the medical exception when it involved the unalivement of the mother.
And then I
So
told
how would I
you.
not
I
admit
know
that
that you
there's a
did
risk?
that, and I told you then. I said, why do you give the exceptions for someone else, right? And that's because that's not right. See, because you're not valuing that life. Because to begin with, you said that you're pro-life because you valued the life, and you think um, everyone has the right to life, and you're trying to protect that pregnant. You're trying to protect what's in the womb there,
Right.
except for if it's an essay, and then you're like, to hell with it.
No, no, no. That's not exactly what I mean by the essay. I didn't get to give my reason why I give the essay exception. We just went off. Why do I give the medical exception? I said, when it involves the unaliving mother, when a medical professional team says that you are going to unalive because of this pregnancy, I definitely think an abortion should be granted. The reason that I give the SA exception is because I think it comes down to ultimately responsibility, right? So every action that we take as human beings, it comes with a consequence.
Uh-huh.
In your opinion, whether it's good or bad, right? So
Uh-huh.
you can't consent to a pregnancy. I understand that, but you can consent to schmex. So if you consent to schmex, no matter what type of contraceptive that you use, right? And it results in the consequence of being pregnant. Um, Now you're responsible for that action, especially when it comes to something so serious as a human life. So
Uh-huh.
I don't think that anybody has the right to terminate a human life.
No, but what you're doing is you're equating a child to a consequence, and you miss that.
No, I said nothing about children. I said a human life.
Yeah. What do you think the human life is going to be there, right? It's going to be a child, right? That you don't birth out grown adults. It's going to be a
Oh
child.
yeah, yeah. I guess yeah.
So what you're saying is the consequence, whether it be good or bad, of consenting to SMEX is you will be forced to raise a child here.
No, I didn't say you'd be forced to raise it. I'm not saying guardianship. I'm not. I didn't say that you were forced to have guardianship. I'm saying
I'm
that you're
sorry.
forced.
You were forced to birth. You were forced to birth the child.
Correct. Yeah.
Yeah.
If you don't want to be a
You don't care after
guardian,
that. You don't care as long as the baby gets out of the womb.
yeah, I don't think that we have the right to terminate a human life. I can't think of any other.
You're putting those clauses on that. You are, and I'm just showing you how illogical it is, because you don't care about after the fact. You don't care if the child grows up in a war zone, gets unalived as a baby, ends up abused, ends up getting shipped off somewhere, ends up getting any type of. You're not concerned about that as long as the
No.
child.
Why would you say that? I never made those claims.
Because you already said that the person is not consenting to raise said child. Like that, they don't have to do that. Yeah, you don't care if they end up getting unalived at the school or none
Well,
of
if
that.
no. I absolutely care about people. I care about human lives. Period. I do not wish any ill will on any human life. I said that in
Except
fact.
for wait. Except for if that human life has a birth canal and they consent to sex and end up pregnant, then you don't care about that life because you're not giving them free will. You're not giving them body autonomy. Do you understand it?
No, I disagree. I'm not giving the. I'm not accepting the fact that we can terminate a human life. I will
You
agree
don't
that it's a
have to.
rights conflict,
You
right?
don't
Like,
have to.
I'll agree that it's a rights conflict, right? When you bring bodily autonomy into it, most pro-choicers actually always agree that it's a rights conflict. Rights among the woman, rights among the fetus, right? It's a rights conflict. In my perspective, terminating the life trumps having to deal with being pregnant.
Yeah, terminating the life always is going to trump. I do want to hold the conversation for just a second. There's a fellow with a patriotic background, American flag. I'm going to get you. I know you've been in the queue for a while. We're going to shut this conversation down in just a minute. But I'm pro-choice all 9 months. I'm never trying to support any type of laws that restrict access to health care for anyone that has birthing anatomy. For any reason will I be in the way of that. I'm never holding any. I'm always for whatever decision that she needs help with. Boom. Um, her decision to keep said child, her decision to yeet it out, whatever the case might be. But and Doug, like I said, your take is very harmful to individuals. You do know that, right?
No, I don't. I think it's harmful to terminate human lives, especially electively. I mean, can you actually name one other social aspect where we actually grant unjustified unalivings of human life?
Yeah, every time that we go to war, sir. Every time, every
Every
time that we
time
go
we
to
go to
war
war.
is an unconstituted taking of innocent lives, and
Every
I
time.
didn't put this on the background here. Yeah, there was just a guy that was unalived in Missouri unjustly, and the governor didn't pardon him for any reason. But I would also like to dig into your background just a touch because you said you're military, right?
Yes, sir.
Did you grow up in a wealthy environment as a
Mm,
child?
No, sir. I'm not afraid to admit I grew up dirt floor poor. And
I also grew up dirt floor poor. Both of my sisters ended up going in the military. Do you know that that in itself is economic abuse that you ended up in the military? Have you ever
um,
made that
I,
connection?
no, I've never made that connection. Now I didn't. So I'm being honest when I say that I grew up dirt floor poor. I didn't. If you want to know my background, I'll tell you. I didn't have. I mean anything growing up. I
I'm
worked
ready.
hard. I actually went to a trade school and graduated before
Mhm.
I joined the military. I didn't have to join the military. I joined the military after I graduated trade school. I could have just, after I got out of the military, I actually went to the trade that I went to school for. So I could have just pursued that. So I wasn't like forced by a system where I had no other choice, you know,
You
because I
weren't
know that does
economically
happen.
incentivized.
I'm sorry?
You weren't economically incentivized, but a lot of people that are in the military are that. But
Yeah,
but
I mean, I guess in some ways, I guess I could agree with you. I definitely, I wasn't necessarily economically persuaded, I guess you could say, but the healthcare benefits and things like that definitely
so
helped. What's that?
so so you were economically persuaded because healthcare should be free to everyone within inside the United States. We can afford
I wouldn't necessarily disagree with you there.
Yeah. So that being the case, if you would have had access to healthcare, then you probably wouldn't have, you see what I'm saying? Like it's
Yeah,
all
but
assisted.
I
It's
just
all
want to make it
assisted.
clear I didn't join just because of the healthcare. It was definitely a perk, right? But I literally joined because um, I was a 100% true believer. I wanted to do good for my country. I
Unaliving people that aren't from your country.
what's that?
By unaliving people that aren't from your country.
I would say protecting men and women and children of our country from evil harm. I hate to tell you this, man, but the men and women in uniform that unfortunately have to do violence for uh, our country and the people in our country. The reason that people in this country sleep good at night is because men and women stand up and are ready to do that. And it's an unfortunate thing. I'll give you that. It's not something that should be promoted. It's a rough thing to do. But
Yeah.
I mean, you sitting here saying that every war is not necessarily necessary. If we didn't have a military, what do you think your country would be like?
If we didn't have a military, you're talking about like how Costa Rica is?
Sure.
Have you ever been to Costa Rica?
Well, no, I'm asking in the United States. In the United States, if we did not have a military, what do you think would happen to us?
We would have a lot better family relationships.
Mm.
Um, because we wouldn't have people being outside of their home. We would have a lot more community because you wouldn't be moving away to different bases. The U.S. itself would be in a lot better shape because we wouldn't spend more than 26 countries combined on military services. So, like weapons details and building ships and Navy aircraft carriers, missiles, all this type of stuff. We wouldn't be meddling in other people's affairs and trying to exploit third world countries. So we would keep a lot more of our resources at home and invest back into the individual people that are there. The VAs themselves will be expanded exponentially and they would be open for everyone to go to instead of just the VA themselves would be better off for veterans because they would have a lot more money being poured into them instead of money being abroad. We would be funding Israel and all these types of things along with that. So we wouldn't have to worry about all of these types. The reason why we have people that threaten our democracy is because we threaten other people's democracy. And I think that's what a lot of people miss. Do you see what I'm
Well,
saying?
I see what you're saying, and somewhat of what you're saying is actually somewhat on the right basis, but you definitely got a few things wrong in my opinion. You know, number one, if we did not have a military, number one, what would you do if we got invaded? And for you to think that we were going to just not be invaded and people from other countries aren't going to come here, and if you think it's bad now compared to what it can be, I can promise you it'll be absolutely life changing. Two, as far as missiles, Navy ships, all these things getting built, those actually provide jobs. People of our country rely on these jobs to provide for their family.
Well,
Um,
I worked
yeah,
on them. I know. I know. I
yeah,
worked on them for a
exactly.
long
I
time.
mean, they provide for their family these ways, so that's definitely an economical boost because they provide a lot of jobs. But if we didn't have a military, and you think that nobody's going to come in here and try to overtake what we have, and we have no means to defend. That is 100% false. And I guarantee you, anybody that thinks that way, if that happened, you would wish that we had a military to stand and fight against that to protect our way of life.
Yeah. So at least you can conflate to that we don't need to be spending 800 billion whatever dollars on the military. Even if you don't think that we need the military to be, you know, to the degree of what it is, or none. We at least need it to be a lot less.
Well, the points that I would agree to is I don't think we need to be, and you didn't say this, so I'm not quoting you, but it's along the same lines, if I may. We don't need to be the world's police. Um, I would agree to that. I would agree that we definitely need to do more when it comes to the United States, but we absolutely need a military. And as far as the VA, what you're talking about, if we didn't have a military, the VA would cease to exist. The VA stands for Veterans Affairs. If we didn't have any military, then we wouldn't have any veterans. So that program would cease to exist. It would not constitute a reason for any other Americans, honestly. The VA does not.
No, you just missed my point on that. The VA would be renamed something else, and it would just be open to everyone because the VA is Veterans Affairs. That's where you go get checked up and all that type of stuff. And that amount of health care should be granted to everyone, and that's what I'm saying. And that's kind of what you're missing.
Oh, well, as far as healthcare, yeah, we actually agreed on that point. Healthcare definitely needs to be better in this country. Yeah, it should be
But
somewhat provided. But
yeah,
we can't provide that. Honestly, we can't even work towards that if we don't have a military to protect our country and the men, women, and children in this country. Like the only reason that you get to do what you do, the only reason you get to get on TikTok is because you have men and women in uniform that protect your rights to do it. You realize that, right?
yeah, no, that's just a story that you've been told because I've been to Costa Rica and they don't have a military, and guess what? I got to get on TikTok there, but I do live in Alabama, and guess what I can't do? I can't log into the hub on my phone because it's restricted. Did you know that? So I can't be watching adult websites in Alabama because my rights are being infringed upon. And I don't know. I go to Costa Rica and watch it. I'm just
Well, I
saying,
mean,
can't
that
get on the
might be the
hub
case,
here.
but I don't think that the reason that you can't, I mean, and I would agree with you, you should be able to get onto the hub, but the reason that you can't watch any type of corn, right, doesn't justify not having a military that protects you every single night. Whenever you lay your head down, you can feel
Rica ain't
safe.
got a military, and I slept there. Well, I actually slept outside in Costa Rica, right on the beach in a hammock. It was great.
Okay, well, let me ask you this. Do you think if we didn't have a military tomorrow in the United States versus Costa Rica, that there would be a vast difference in between Costa Rica and the United States? Other countries would not come to take over this land and bring in their ideologies and their law and their rule. Do you think
Yeah.
that we would just be totally fine? Nobody would come here?
Yeah, I think that we would be all right. I think that we'd be all right. Now because there's probably a correlation with the amount that CEOs make, the amount of military that we have here, and the amount of corruption that's brewed in between that, and the amount of propaganda that you people, and when I say you people, I'm talking about us in general, understand that everyone wants to come here. And why do we have expats, sir? If everyone wants to come here, we're way off topic. I do want to get to John. Um,
Certainly.
but at the end of the day, the military causes a lot more harm than it does good.
How?
It's a
What has the
mafia.
military
Sir. It's
done
a
to you?
mafia. You're protecting yourself from yourself. It's a mafia-based thing.
What has the military specifically done to you? What real world um, situations do you have to back your claim that the military does more harm than good?
My uncle did 3 tours during Desert Storm, and he ended up unaliving because of that after the fact. That left my 2 first cousins without a father for the rest of their lives.
Certainly, and I totally I can sympathize with that. I know plenty of guys I've got 7 pairs of white gloves from the same type of situation from guys that I've deployed with, where I've been to their funerals. However, like, and that's a terrible situation, right? Like, it really is. But whenever you say for the vast majority, the military does more harm than good, I think that what you are missing is the fact that he did that allows so many Americans to actually, pardon me, so many Americans to live the way of life that we do. When it comes to the National Guard and these national disasters that we have, I've been part of floods, hurricanes, all this stuff. We show up and we save American lives. So we don't go out there and terrorize or anything like that. We're literally saving people, pulling people out of their homes when they're begging for help, and we're literally saving lives. If we didn't have a military, so many Americans went unalive due to these natural disasters that would not be provided if it wasn't for the military. Like, what you were saying is not
You keep
actually true.
you kind of keep repeating yourself. Now we can set up some type of thing that helps U.S. citizens, kind of like the National Guard, that doesn't go off and fight abroad. You know, and just with affairs domestically. That's fine, but again, that's a whole nother situation.
But the same men and
Hey,
women that
hey
are in
guys,
the National Guard
respectfully,
do fight
hey, can I just interject for
abroad.
1 second and just say hello? I just want to make sure my mic's good, no echo, no nothing.
Yeah, no, actually, we're gonna move on. We're gonna get off of this military back and forth stuff. So
Well,
what's up,
I
John?
actually just want to just say one thing on that, because this will close all that real fast. I promise we don't have to have a conversation or nothing. Host, earlier you said that America, you have strong stances on the military. You said America wouldn't be in the position it's in if it didn't meddle in other people's affairs. That's what you said, right?
That's what I said.
Okay, so are we talking like, 1789 to 1801, right after the creation, after we kicked the British out? Are we going to go to the Jefferson era? Are we going to talk about the trouble with France when they brought it to us, and the trouble with trade wars and how they were trying to still close us out as a country? Do we want to go Mexican-American War? Like, where do you want to bridge? Because people have this crazy idea that America has just always stepped over bounds, and they don't remember we started out as this little bitty baby country that had to fight off and defend against the largest tyrannical government of all time, Great Britain, and we had to literally kick them back across the ocean to develop the greatest country ever made. And since then, while I don't agree with world policing, I will tell you we have overstepped, and there are a lot of ways to bring us back to this country. But to believe that the United States military should not exist is detrimental unaliving of ourselves, because the number is astronomical. If someone in your chat wanted to look that up, like the amount of people, the lives that we have saved, the stuff that we have done, the countries that we have kept intact, like the innocent people that we have provided for, not even just talking about just in our own country, just outside of that. So if you want to talk about what the military has done, that's a different conversation. You got to put a different background up, because man, we could start back, and like I said, we can go back to 1781 if you want, and start from there.
No,
That's a different thing.
But we can start right there, and I want you to. I appreciate all the gifts and the love, and if y'all want to subscribe, I'm coming out with sub only stuff, but that's another conversation. But John, who occupied this land in 1750 or whatever you want to say that? What
did.
people occupied this land then?
We did. The Britons did. Lots of immigrants did. You mentioned immigrants as well. Lots of indigenous people.
Who is we?
Well, I have indigenous in me, I have European in me, I have African in me, so I can't really, when I say we, I'm covering a lot of people, but I'm saying there were lots of different people here during that time. There were French, there were British people, there were Spanish people, there were indigenous people, there were African people. I mean, which land are we talking about? We talking about Alabama, we talking about Florida, we talking about the Southeast, the Northwest, where are we talking about?
Look, we're talking about the whole of the 50 United States, right?
Well, back in the 1700s, that wasn't a thing at that point, but yeah.
I understand that. Exactly. That's the point. So who was on the land at that time? Who was on the land at 1600? The land was 100%, not some bitches that look like me and you.
No, there were people here that look like us.
You're saying that you were defending and you were doing this and this and that. You were still taking from someone else. You were still
hold on, listen, brother. With all due respect, though,
somebody there.
But listen, that's not a conversation you want to have, because if you want to go back to the Choctaw, if you want to go to the Cherokee, if you want to go to the Sioux, if you want to go to the Comanche, we can go through Native American tribes and we can talk about all the fighting they did amongst themselves. They were literally unaliving and taking land from themselves long before the white people got here, bro. That I'm saying, that's not, you don't want to make this conversation about that, because listen, the idea that Native Americans, quote unquote, because they haven't even always been here. Science tells us that, by the way. But
You ain't gotta mute him, but I do want you to calm it down a little bit, because at the end of the day, you're trying to say that people fought amongst themselves, and then that gives you right to step on top of them.
I didn't
That's a
mention
lot.
rights, bro.
Yeah.
I
Huh?
respect you standing up for me getting muted too, by the way. That a lot of people that host don't do that. I appreciate you standing
Yeah.
up for me not getting muted. But no, and I will back it down. I apparently, your moderator, I was talking too fast or too hard for him. But no, what I'm saying is that people conquer. That's what they do. They lust for land, they lust for money, they lust for game, they lust for multiple different things. That's happened since the. Why are you shaking your head? No, they don't.
Because you might think that, but I don't. I don't want that. I don't think
Well, that's
that.
because you live in a modern society.
A lot of indigenous people don't think that. A lot of
They
now
did back then.
that's a colonizer mindset for sure. That's a colonizer for sure.
So you don't know about all the intertribal wars between the Sioux, like you really don't understand all the tribal wars that went on with different quote unquote Native American tribes prior to white men being here. You haven't studied that?
No, I know about some of it, but I think that you're misconstruing just how serious it was. I think that you're doing a lot of that.
So
You're doing
why
you're doing
would
a
they
lot
have fought for that land?
you're doing a lot of they were fighting already. We just brought pew pews into the thing, so we
Oh,
ended
we
up.
definitely are the best at colonizing and conquering 100%. Like us less melanated people. That's 100% historically factual.
So
I
can
agree
I ask
that,
one question? Can I ask one question in here? So,
yeah.
host, I would actually agree with what you're saying, like with the way that it happened, right? Like indigenous people were here on this land. Um, immigrants came here, colonized, all that. I feel like we can agree on that. Now, whenever you're talking about defunding or not defunding, that's the wrong word. You said that basically abolishing the military. Look what happened exactly in that situation. If back then indigenous people had a military that could prevent this from happening, then we would not be having this conversation right now in the United States, right? So if you sit here and say that we don't need a military to protect us, the same thing, history is going to repeat itself. We will be taken over by another country, another ideal society. It will happen. Like people will come over here and they will literally take all the freedoms that you have right now away. Your way of life will be completely different. Do you know there's many countries that cannot stand the Western way of life just because we have freedom of religion, freedom of speech, all these things? Like it will be taken away from you.
Yeah, that's just not it. First off, I'm in Alabama. Somebody said I was in Costa Rica. I've been there before. This picture's from Spain. I was in Spain for a couple of weeks ago. I just got back a little bit ago, but I think that y'all are missing some other things like smallpox. I don't think that y'all realize just how deadly we were to be on this land. And when I say we, I'm talking about European Americans. So European Americans ended up unaliving a lot of people, making a lot of treaties that they broke, making a lot of promises
100%.
that they broke.
100%.
A lot of colonizing just means subjecting oppression to people. And so that being the case, nobody is illegal. That's exactly right.
Yeah. Can I interject 1 second? Because I see a lot of stuff going on in the comments. People are like putting me in a box that I don't belong in. Let me say that I believe the greatest tragedy that flag that's behind my picture has ever committed has been that against the Native Americans. I have a small portion of Native American blood in me, and I'm telling you, that is the worst thing. No, I would say it's the worst. It is by far.
I wouldn't say that you have indigenous blood in you. I wouldn't say that. Like, cause
right. You can argue with Ancestry.com. Then that's not take out. I said that doesn't matter.
Saying, here's the thing with the views that you have, and then saying that.
Yeah, that's fine. Just forget I said it. That's not even a big point.
You see what I'm saying? Well, that's kind of the point, because you just
I'm
have like
4.5% black too, so we're gonna take that out too.
yeah. I wouldn't
Just
go
because
around
I'm
saying the
extremely
N-word.
white. Yeah,
I wouldn't
because
go around
we're
saying the
not all
N-word.
mutts, right? We're not all
Yeah.
mutts. We are what we look like.
Yeah, no. What I'm saying is you're being harmful to groups of people,
In your
and then
opinion, yes, sir.
you're trying to align yourself with that group of people by saying my ancestors
No,
are
sir.
of your people.
No,
That's what
I
you're
am a
saying.
die-hard American that will tell you that the way that we handled the Native American situation was horrible. It's the worst thing that I've ever read about, ever studied about, and I think the way we treated the Native American people, who I know a lot of people from that community, was the worst. That is the worst stain in American history. So to everybody in the chat saying otherwise, I believe that is the worst thing ever. Now, does that say that we can just automatically wave a magic wand and change what's happened? No, we have to progress from this point forward. So I was just addressing those people in there who think I'm some giant colonizer at that point, because I think that listen, we could go through Native American history, we could go through early American history, we could go through, when we were under Britain's rule, we can go into the creation of American history after that and the American Indian War and everything. Listen, that's the darkest part of our country's history, is the way we handled the Native Americans. So I'm not saying anything besides that at all. All I was saying is that the notion that the Native Americans were peaceable people, or people that got along or didn't do any bad before we got here, is insane to me. We just came and gave them sharper teeth is what we did, in all honesty. And most Native Americans will just admit that. They'll say, you're 100% right. You gave us the guns, or pew-pews, sorry.
So host, let's say that I'm just going to ask you a real simple question. Let's say that tomorrow we said we didn't need a military, right? Like, okay, military is not needed. Boom, disbanded. No military in the U.S. You got everything that how your worldview should be. And then all of a sudden, another country came over here and said, "Hey, you are defenseless." They came in and basically took over with their pew-pews and their ideologies and way of life, and completely disrupted every single freedom that we have, that we hold to this Constitution and this way of life. Would you say then that I wish we had a defense system set up to prevent this?
No, I would say that we need to be in agreement with people outside of that. So we don't need to flex our biceps, and we don't need to show our muscles as a country. We need to be civilized individuals and civilized country, and we need to have agreements and things like that. We don't need to back out of the Paris Agreement. We don't need to bulldoze our way into third world countries to rob them of their resources. We need to do things ethically and just, because, as we've already alluded to in this conversation several times, we don't have a good track record for ethics and morals and justice when we move around inside of society.
Right.
So World War I wasn't ethical?
So you think that just by not having a military and basically having a handshake agreement with other country world leaders, that they would just respect that, being a defenseless country? You think that they would just absolutely be like, okay, we had an agreement, and we shook on it, and it's going to be fine. Y'all keep doing you. You think that's going to happen?
No, they destroy us the next day. Listen, you got to go back to you could go back to as early, just as late as World War I. That wasn't ethical, bro. What we did as America in World War I wasn't ethical. That's what you just said?
I didn't say that.
I'm asking.
I think that it's hard to have this conversation with people that haven't deconstructed a lot of colonizer mindsets.
No, remove the colonization out of it. Remove out of what we did for France against.
We can't remove the colonization out of it,
bro,
because that is the mindset that you have. So that being the case, we can't remove that from that. Here's a great example. Let's take all the military off the table, and let's have the discussion about police officers. I think we should defund the police.
And what do you exactly mean? Because there's a couple of different scenarios when people say defund the police. Like, what do you exactly mean by that?
So you mean no law enforcement organizations at all?
Well, let him answer.
I'm asking a question.
Their opinion.
We do not need capital punishment. We don't need ruling by bad behavior. We don't need a mafia style gang type activity in order to bend the will of the people. Okay, so if you raise good, equitable people, I'm gonna use myself as an example here, right? I am not going around unaliving people because not because it's against the law, but because it's bad to do, and I don't want anyone to do it to me. Therefore, I don't do it to someone else. All this type of behavior, right? I was raised to value someone's life. I was raised to give them body autonomy. That's why abortion is healthcare. I was raised to be equitable inside of society. So if we take all of the money that we spend now on police departments, on modern slavery with the prison system and all that type of stuff, and we invest it into the people that are here on this land, then we won't need a police force.
So what do you do with all the criminals that were not raised the way you were, that do not think the way that you think, that actually seek to do bodily harm, that literally live to cause chaos, conflict, and harm to better themselves? What do you do with those people?
Do you think that that's a normal human mindset?
100%. I think it is innate in the human body to do that. You can say that's your problem. I said, what do you do with those individuals? Do we admit they exist?
Well, there's plenty of people that are incarcerated that actually grew up in really good homes that
100%.
good values.
Grew up rich and great lives.
How can you say that, if we invest it in nothing but the people and good upbringings, like give people more money basically and resources, how do you justify all the people that are incarcerated that grew up with good lives?
No, you made my point for me. You made my point for me because you said they were raised in great homes, wealthy, rich, or however you worded it. And
well off, whatever you want to say.
Good values.
That's not fixing the problem. Money doesn't fix the problem. Ethics, morals, understanding, and love fix the problem.
What about people raised in ethical homes that still unalive people? Like just
I
innate evil people.
Good value homes. Like
he said good value.
There's people that's incarcerated that grew up in the same home as brothers and sisters, and they did not commit horrible crimes. But some people
let me ask a question real quick. Hold on. Listen, Alabama, do you believe that there is in any place that mental illness, whether it be genetic, whether it be chemical, whether it be tragedy, something plays a part in these people's lives to cause them to do unbelievable evil?
You made
Does
my
that
point.
exist?
Is mental illness a warrant to end up in the prison system?
You just answered a question with a question,
Why
bud.
do you think that we need police officers to fix a mental illness problem?
No, hold on, listen. That's not what police...
No. Why do you think police officers are equipped to handle people that have mental issues
They're not.
that need to be worked out?
You want me to shut you down? They're not.
You're missing the point.
Brother, they're not equipped for it.
Are you saying that everybody that commits a crime, especially a heinous crime, has a mental illness?
That's what John said.
John didn't. John didn't. Don't put words in John's mouth. My mic's not muted.
I'm asking you, host. Does everybody that commits a heinous crime, do they have a mental illness?
No.
Okay.
There we go.
So if the answer is no, then should we not have some type of governing society to punish these individuals, to not make it popular decision, to not influence others of society to commit these same crimes, right? Like if you defund the police and somebody commits a heinous crime for their own selfish actions and there's absolutely no consequences, what makes that other person that wouldn't normally do it because there's consequence decide, you know what, I wouldn't normally do this, but everybody else gets away with it. You know what, this will be better for me. Let me go ahead and do it.
You think that enacting bad behavior on them is going to fix the problem? You thinking like a mafia. You're thinking like a gang. You're thinking if the punishment here is going to be bad, therefore you're not going to do it because the punishment is bad. Not because it's morally incorrect to do this thing, but it's I'm going to punish you in a bad way. I'm going to give you a whooping, a popping, I'm going to send you away for 10 years. Like that's what you're thinking about.
Well, no, every single law that we have is legitimately backed up by what in society we have laws on. Like we have a law against murder. The reason we have a law against murder is because as society we've basically said that it is morally wrong, right? I think there's a law out there that says
I don't need that law.
In some way.
But society does, bro.
in
That's what I'm
some
telling you.
way, if you're speeding, the reason that there's a speed limit on the road is because it can be backed by it's morally wrong. Because if you are traveling 100 miles an hour in this zone, you could potentially unalive somebody, and that is morally wrong, right? Like every single law that we have is backed by some type of moral that we've come up with as a
100%.
society.
See, here's the problem is that, host, you are equating society to yourself. And you seem like you were raised in a decent, hold on, give me 1 second. You seem like you were raised in a decent place, like you were brought up right, like you learned ethics, you learned morals. That's not everybody's upbringing, bro. Listen, and I will be the first person to say this. You're saying we need to get rid of the police to defund them. I'm telling you, police need highly intensive and better training. We need
Absolutely.
specialized individuals who deal with mental health crises. We need to revamp the entire process. The fact that you want to get rid of the police and you want to get rid of the military, bro, you're asking for wild, wild west. You're doing nothing but advocating for creating thousands, if not millions, of victims in this country because the majority of people don't have teeth, bro. They don't have the pews that we have. At least I have them. I believe you do too. But they don't have the ability to defend themselves. So when something goes bump in the night, when a door is kicked in, and I've got this 34 long slide sitting next to me, what do those people have? A lot of people don't have that. So they need the police to enforce laws, to have those as the standing line as we're here for you. Now, do the police mess up? Absolutely. Could it be better? Absolutely. But you fix the system. You don't burn it to the ground. You
Yeah.
have to actually you have to remake it. You have to build it back and fix the problems, not just
Even
get rid
small
of it.
things. Even small things like drinking and driving. Like drinking and driving is absolute 100% dangerous. If we
Everybody
didn't
would do it
have
if it wasn't
police,
illegal,
if we didn't
or
have
majority of people.
police, no, I get it. Everybody, a lot of people do it, but it's against the law. The reason we have a law against it because if you drink and drive, you are going to subject yourself and others to greater harm, right?
100%.
So
Statistics support it.
if you don't actually enforce that law, then and we'd had no police, then
Oh,
a
it'd be
lot of
through the
people would
roof.
drink and drive. They would drink and drive with their
Fa-
children. Like you,
DUI fatalities would be through the
No, no,
roof.
no.
yeah,
That's
like
what
you
you
thinking that
think.
people are
That's
just
what.
going to come
Hold on,
together
Doug.
and
Hold
not
on,
do
Doug.
it. It's
Hold on,
ridiculous.
Doug. Hold on, Doug. First thing, y'all are advocating. You're almost advocating in the right revenue that I'm advocating for. You said the police need to be more highly trained.
Yes.
For what exactly? Like, let's just look three things right there. Trained for what?
So they should be trained, number one, to enforce the laws, not impede on citizen rights,
100%.
not to be a bully, not to scare people. In fact,
100%.
the police should actually be looked at as somebody that you can count on, somebody that you trust. If you look at a police officer going down the road, I mean, let's be honest, it's somewhat in fear, right, for most
It
of
scares
society.
you.
Right, like you see a cop, you're like, oh shit, no, you know, how fast am I driving, this and that, and like it
Yep.
shouldn't be looked at that. Police should be there for the people. I would say in more of a way that the military is actually there
Great,
for the
great.
people.
Let's calm it down right there. That is a social worker. What you're advocating for is a social worker.
That can stop a bad guy that's armed. Yes.
You're asking for a social worker.
That can stop a bad guy that's armed.
You're asking for friend people that operate within inside the community that you can be friends with. That you don't have to look over your back and worry about who's doing bad and who's doing wrong.
Well, no, we need police to look at who's doing bad and who's doing wrong. Same scenario with the drunk driving, right? We don't have social workers out there all hours of the night making sure that people are being safe on the road and keeping other people safe on the road if you're drunk driving. So if you are impaired driving, it is the police's job. If you want to call it a social worker with arrest powers to stop somebody from potentially harming the public, then I guess we're on the same page. But taking away the police to not enforce those laws that help protect people, I think is absolutely wrong.
I
Hi
agree.
guys.
Hey, Miss
Hello.
Ignite, how you doing?
Hi. First of all, I want to say how happy I am that this is the first space. It's been so respectful. I've been on other like debate channels and it's like so ghetto and so just like I really appreciate everything because I'm learning a lot from all of you guys. And I'm really excited to join this conversation.
Yeah, it's
Being
good to have you.
somebody,
I got to tell you, host, you're actually doing 100% good job because you actually engage in the conversation and
100%.
yeah.
Can I tell y'all why? I think
refreshing.
he's a Tide fan, and they pulled that one off against Georgia,
Oh,
and
don't
he's
go
engaged.
there. That's where it's going to go bad.
I'm just messing. He's
I
probably
do. I do
Auburn.
want to. I do want to take a little digest on that. No, I'm not a football fan at all, and
I got you, man.
not that I don't. People can play sports and stuff like that, but to be honest with you, with the current thing that we have going on right now with inside society,
Thank you.
sports is a diversion to what the real issue is. Okay, so
Yes.
if you know about all these sports stats and you don't know that Alabama lawmakers blocked federal funding for expansion of Medicaid and Medicare that has led to 4 hospitals inside of Alabama closing, then you're part of the problem.
Yeah. Well, can I defend football for 1 second as an old football coach? Is that I deal with young people, like America's young people, and I deal with people that come from broken families, people that come from drug addicted parents, and they're in the system and in and out of the system. And football literally saves their lives.
But they don't have to make millions and millions of dollars. We don't have
Oh,
to
no, I'm not talking
advertise
about that.
it
I'm just
for
talking about
revenue.
football in general. Yes, ma'am. Because a lot
Yeah,
of people
I
play at
played
the
football
University
in
of
junior high on
Alabama.
the guys team.
Yeah, a lot of people play at even collegiate D1 levels and never go pro. But what I'm saying is that I was just making a joke there about you being Alabama. You're either Auburn or you're Crimson Tide. But no, football and sports in general are important to young people because it is a building tool. It is a foundational tool that brings them together as a brotherhood, as a family, or a sisterhood, and can literally pull them out of some of the darkest places. And as somebody who advocates for mental health and has literally stopped kids from pulling the TRIGGER, I can tell you it's an invaluable tool. So I'm blessed to be in the position to work with those people. So that's why I kind of make the jab at football, because football is my thing. So, but that's why I defend that.
Kudos. Good for you, brother.
Yes, sir. No, the blessing's all mine. Trust me, dude. It's, it is an awesome position to be in. So
I do want to turn towards some data in some other countries. The Netherlands has a prison population of 29,000 people. They actually have so few prisoners there now. They're taking in prisoners from other countries to fill their areas because they just don't have them anymore. Their population is 18 million, and
so like New York City.
Yeah, and we can look up, we can support that with, we can look up the U.S., the New York City population, and then we can see how many people are incarcerated there, and we can see that it's a crazy number, right?
Right. So I absolutely believe that there needs to be prison reform, but in
100%.
aspect that what you're talking about, I don't really see how that's relevant to the United States, because whenever it comes to the Netherlands and the United States, it's completely two different
It is apples and oranges.
aspects. You know, I mean, the
Well, this
United
goes back
States,
to
most
his-
people
this
want to
goes back
move
to
to the
his-
United States.
I love being here. You guys are obviously very masculine and it's very logical. I'm not going to try to debate you guys on numbers or anything. So if I can bring the feminine aspect to this, I'd really appreciate it. But what he's saying is that like there are other countries that are doing things differently, that are working for their citizens, for common people like us, right? And the conversation that you guys are having is so important. I find it to be very helpful, but you guys are on either end of the extreme scales of like, you understand defunding the police is like saying that we don't want police at all.
Well, he
like,
said that,
funding
in
the
all
police-
due respect, he said that.
Right, but I think he's saying that we need to like readjust the way that we're doing things, right? Like we monitor, we have people who monitor, we have people neighborhood watch. We work together with our neighbors to keep our community
No, ma'am.
safe.
No, ma'am.
He said he wanted to
But
get rid of police, like the armed dudes who enforce laws against bad guys. He said he wanted to get rid of them.
And this is why.
But if he wants to change that, he needs to say it.
I'm in California. I'm in LA. One of the biggest scandals right now are all the officials that have been a part of this P. Diddy scandal. And
100%. It's disgusting.
Ugly. This goes into spirituality. It goes way beyond what we can comprehend here with our human minds, right? The thing is that the system is created by the mafia, period. Everyone that's running our country right now has the mindset of a gangster. And I know this because I grew up in a gang-related area. The abortion rights, if I didn't have the abortion rights, I would have been the mother of really terribly ill-minded kids with mental health issues. I wish I was aborted.
Sure, but
Absolutely.
I'm sorry you feel that way, ma'am. But
Yeah.
No, it's good. Listen, I'm a life coach. I work with people on mental health. I work with people on intuition, and I speak at many events talking about being in mission, in passion, and on purpose, because that's my goal here. But there are so many people who should not be having children.
sir,
that's a completely different conversation, though.
But it's in the same conversation. It's just an emotional one. It's not a logical one.
Well, here would be,
it can be a logical one.
Since we jumped to that topic, here would be my first question. Like, and this is like to you and the host, because I know that me and Doug kind of agree on most of this, is that science tells us that fetus is obviously a human life. Do you agree that, and host, I heard you say earlier, you agree up to 9 months, literally, like that's the word you said. Do you agree that it is a life at any stage that you are ending? You are ending a human life.
Am I ending a human life from having the fetus in my body? Is that what you're saying?
No, like by having I don't know if I can say the abortion word. I guess you can on TikTok. I don't know what TikTok's rules are. But do either one of you agree that it is a human life, and at any stage you are ending a human life?
I agree.
Okay. That's honest answer. I love that. I appreciate that. Now, what about you, host? Do you agree you are ending a human life?
I agree, but I also this is what's happening. You're ending a pregnancy.
Yeah.
But you agree you're ending a human life. So we're on the same page there.
But you're ending a pregnancy.
That's the second part of it. Okay.
No, that's the first part of it, actually. That's the first part. And that's where you're kind of getting confused on that, right?
Not confused. My beliefs are solid, I promise you. But that's where we differ. Let's agree to disagree there.
Yeah, but
I have 2 children.
Yeah.
If I was to end my child's life, that would be ending a human life. Ending my pregnancy was something different. Is there a potential life? Is there something living inside of me? Yes.
Well,
but
that's different from what you said, because scientifically it's already a
yeah, but we got to go beyond science, man. And just because science says that that's a human life doesn't mean that I live in the current state that's going to nurture that baby and be able to raise that baby to be a healthy-minded individual that's not going to become part of the problem.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And that's kind of where Ignite and I are going with this defund the police situation that y'all don't get on board with. Like, because if we took the money that we're funding police, military, all of the bad behavior that America as a country has, if we reallocate that money and funds to helping the individuals, because if you put yourself in the shoe, which you never can, I can never get an abortion, neither can y'all too. If you try to put yourself in the shoes
if I enact a woman and create pregnancy.
Wait a minute. If
then I would be getting one.
In the shoes of that person, that is a difficult decision, and they know the access of resources that they have. They know the society that they currently live inside of, and they know the trials and tribulations that go along with those things. So that being the case, I'm sure that it's always a difficult decision for that person to make.
Absolutely.
So
oh my gosh, it's terrible.
It's horrible, but you're still ending a human life.
No, what you should do is advocate for that person to be able to raise a future child in a good, equitable society.
I think what we should be advocating for.
One second, Doug, because I know we agree on this. Hold on, this is one part. I have a buddy who is an OBGYN who summed this up in the greatest way possible, and I hope I don't get muted again during this. He told me that as a healthcare professional, as a doctor who takes care of women, who does women's healthcare, when he gives healthcare to a pregnant woman, he is caring for 2 distinct patients at any stage.
that's something that a doctor and OBGYN has to think like. They have to think that way
Well,
because they have to
that's
consider
science.
both
That's
patients.
life, ma'am. And I
No, that
understand all
somebody
the
choosing a
extenuating
career.
circumstances. So we
There
either
are
have
doctors
to,
who perform abortions. Doctors also perform abortions.
oh,
So
100%. Yeah.
you
No,
know what I
those
I
are,
mean?
think what most pro-lifers are.
Yeah, I didn't mute y'all, but we do need to stay on the mute a little bit more. But at the end of the day, the person that's here now, the person that's here right now that is pregnant, they're, even if you want to say it's a human life, however you want to categorize that, the
it is.
most important in that situation. Do you give an SA exception, John? Yes or no?
Not for the reason you would agree with, no.
Yeah, that's a problem in itself. So
I
you
know.
you
I heard you talking to Doug. We can have that conversation if you want it.
you probably might not understand consent, but that's not here nor
No, I
there.
do. There's a
We don't.
difference, though, a woman who did not consent to SMEGs and a woman who was forcefully taken. That's a completely different topic, bro.
I have a question for you, John. I have a question for you.
Yes, ma'am.
So you're bringing in the question of like, do I agree that I'm ending a human life? What does that matter for you in the terms of like why it should be okay or not okay for me to be able to make that decision?
Because I value all human life, ma'am.
Where does that stem from? Does that stem from religion? Does that stem
No,
from
ma'am.
like empathy? Where does that stem from?
I don't know what you would call it. It's an innate part of me. I have always protected people. I've stood up against bullies. I have been jumped and beat up for standing up for people. I've always tried to protect people who couldn't defend themselves. Long before, and I know the host isn't gonna want to hear this part because I don't want the conversation to come about it. But way later in my life, after almost taking my own life, I did become one of those Christians, but I had these beliefs long before that. When I was an atheist and I loved Bill Nye the Science Guy and I believed all that stuff, I have always stood up for and supported life. I had my first kid at 18 years old, just so that's thrown out there. Not one time did the conversation come across, and I was supposed to go into the Marine Corps. I had a life, I had a career. I wasn't sure about this girl, but I made the decision to protect that life, to raise that life, to provide for that life. And he is now my almost.
So it sounds like you have like a North Star in speaking for those who can't speak up for themselves.
Yes, ma'am. I 100% want to speak up for those that can't speak for themselves and defend those. But at the same time, I want to listen to people and their situations. And that's why the medical exemption, and I heard Doug put it away earlier that was really eloquent. Like I'd never heard it put that way about the self-defense. But a mother who is being medically threatened with her own life does have the right to protect her own life from that fetus that is potentially unaliving her. That I've never heard it put that way. And that was actually pretty good.
Okay, so let me paint you a scenario then, just because it sounds like you care for people on an individual level. So I'm gonna assume that you'll consider me in this.
100%. Yes, ma'am.
Right? Okay. So I was raised in a place where I was sexually molested and raped constantly, and a lot of the policemen that came, one of the police officers actually ended up saving my life because the police officer, though I begged to be put into the system, told me that I was going to be much safer outside of the system since I was closer to the age of 18 than to be put in. In that time, my aunt was sacrificing my body as a surrogate, and I got pregnant. And I was definitely in a space where I was mentally not stable, and she ended up beating the baby out of me, right? Now, from the trauma and not having access to healthcare and all of that, I got an infection that was really, really bad. Fast forward a couple of days, healing from all of that. Because I have no education, I don't have parental guidance. I'm living on the street. I live in a gang-related area. Cops are involved. There's no one to talk to. No one's listening to me. I am having promiscuous sex all over the place. It's become a coping system, a coping mechanism, not just me, all my girlfriends, sisters, so many young girls getting pregnant at the age of 16, 18. Those kids are now having kids very, very young. So even if I don't have a medical reason, even if I don't have this, even if I got pregnant 5 times and I needed to have an abortion 5 times, I don't live in a system that's built to support me to be able to not have that access to that. And I would have had to give birth to so many babies that I wouldn't have been able to take care of, who probably would have ended up becoming a problem. So just curious about how you would say to pull those rights away from me and say that I need to be responsible for those when I didn't even have a fighting chance.
Yes, ma'am. Well, the first thing I want to say is that, uh, like the first thing of all of it, I'm sorry that you have had to deal with any of that. Like, and I know a lot of people will probably make fun of that and say he's gaslighting, whatever. But I honestly
Oh,
mean
I
that
appreciate
it's
that.
horrible that you went through any of that. Second of all, is the one people may not like is that we never have a right, in my opinion, okay, outside of a couple of reasons that, like I said, medically essentially should be really be the only one. Because see, here's my personal belief. You don't have to raise that baby, but if you could have that baby and then allow that
Cool.
baby to be, just give me 1 second,
Absolutely.
because the
Absolutely. Okay.
adoption system
Yep.
and the
Yep.
foster system is
Yep.
horrible. It
The
needs to be
foster system
fixed.
is a child trafficking
It's
business.
disgusting. I agree.
Social
It needs to be
services is a
fixed.
child trafficking corporation.
100%.
The
I have a
reason
friend who
people are
works in it.
pushing this abortion law, the reason Trump's pushing this abortion law and all of that, is because Trump's also involved with child trafficking through his connections with Epstein and Diddy and all these people. They don't want us to have rights to abortion because they want our kids. And I know that's radical, but that's the world we live in.
Well, you know that your
Yeah.
unalived and aborted kids are also worth money, right?
Absolutely, it's sick.
It is. So I mean, there's
But
here,
do you understand that these babies are being sexually assaulted and these girls are being sold underage and made to eat their own feces from
100%,
being
and it's
gang
disgusting
raped?
and it's evil, and you need
We
violent
don't need more
men who are
babies.
ready to handle those people. That's a whole other side of the thing, because
Wait a
to
minute. Are you
handle those,
talking about when when adoption happens at basically
Yes.
babies?
Yes. You guys know, did you
So
guys know
that's
that
not.
the reason we used
So
to
no,
put
I would
kids'
say that's
faces on milk
absolutely
cartons
untrue. I would say
before
that's
the
untrue.
internet?
I
Before
would
the
say that's
internet?
untrue. So
Hold on 1 second. Let me just finish my statement.
I had to get my pearls out.
Thank you. Before the internet, the way that they marketed children was by putting their faces on milk cartons and putting flyers up. Those children were never missing. They were all collected in an area, and that's how people shopped for children.
So when it comes to adoption, especially when it comes to babies, virtually 100% of the time, babies get adopted. Adoption and the foster care system are two totally different things.
They're
Foster
not
care,
though. They're not. They make it seem like they are,
Wait
but
a
they're
minute. I'll let you
not.
talk. So foster care is for a reunification program, as adoption is for a permanent home program. So when it comes to babies getting adopted, virtually 100% of the time, babies get adopted. There are 2.7 million.
No,
Some
you're
would
wrong,
argue
Doug. And they're not getting.
2.5.
And they're not
Wait
getting.
a minute.
And who's
There's
adopting them
2.5 to
though?
2.7 million adoptive families that have
I don't
waited
care
the
about
waiting
numbers,
period.
Doug. We
Well,
can't
you
even
should care
trust
about numbers,
numbers. And
because
where are
if
you
you're not
getting
going to
your
care about
numbers
numbers, then all
from?
you're talking about is semantics. There's
Exactly. That's where we
2.5
live.
to
We live in an
2.7.
energetic world. We live in a somatic world.
Wait a minute. If we're gonna have a conversation, right? Like, I gotta listen to you. And it goes both ways. So there's 2.5, 2.7 million adopted families that have waited the waiting period, that are willing and ready to adopt. And virtually in every single community, right, there is adoption families that, in fact, the mother actually gets to choose who the adopted parents are.
In the
This can
perfect
come
world,
from
Doug.
Helen's Home,
Yes.
Planned Parenthood, all
Do you know
the
how many babies go
many
missing
sources.
in hospitals when they're born? Do you know how many babies are switched?
What? Well, if you're going to make a claim like that, you have to give a source, right? Like, I can give a source
Only
on these
only the
numbers.
masculine mind and somebody
If you're
who
not going to
can't
give a
who can't.
source, then you're
If
not really
I'm
stating
asking you to raise your
facts.
conscious awareness right now.
You're not really stating facts unless you can give a source. Like, I don't know how many babies are given switched. Do
If
you?
you
Can you
need
provide a source
facts
to
to
that?
something that's right under your nose, and you're missing the point altogether.
Well, I actually look up facts, and I'm giving you actual
You're not
numbers
going
and
to find anything
statistics,
that's going to
and you're
show that the
saying
government is in
you're sitting
support
here
of
saying that
child
my numbers
trafficking.
don't matter, but
They
I'm the only
don't,
one
because you're
that's
not going
actually
to
giving
find anything
statistical
on the
facts.
internet. Do you
Okay. All right. What? I feel like
That's weird.
who did that? I didn't do that. Did Doug, you still here?
Yeah, I'm still here, brother.
I didn't send anybody out of here.
Yeah, they both just left really
I
quick. I
don't,
don't. They must have dropped, well,
I
they
don't
must have
know.
got kicked.
Yeah, I don't know why they got kicked. The app was probably doing something, but if y'all are listening in the hallway, I didn't do that. I'm sorry. But this is a good time. Yeah, I didn't kick y'all though. But this is probably they probably was flagged. It is 12:11, and I used to go live until the wee hours of the morning, but I try not to do that no more. I try to be respectful of my bedtime, and I consent to the bedtime. Um, it says you was reported for the hate speech, possibly, John, because they was saying um, you was saying some stuff that was slightly unhinged. We try to keep it TikTok friendly here. We were getting a little heated there for a minute, which I know people do that. You know what I'm saying? When the stuff goes down, the nursing department is the only department that locks the hospital down. Yeah, that's right, Chase. I do want to say some things that kind of allude to that. But Doug, I am going to go on and drop you out too, so I can just be up here by myself, I guess. But I appreciate you coming up along with the other two, Ignite and John.
Yeah.
And if y'all want to come back, we'll have another conversation. I'll run this background again. But what I want to say out loud is adoption is not a solution for a pregnancy. And anyone that says that probably just hasn't been around the foster care situation with inside of the United States. It needs to be overhauled. There's a lot of the systems that need to be overhauled, and it's funny when people try to stand on a heel of not doing one but doing another. John, you were a fine example of that. You said that this system was bad, the healthcare was bad, the um, foster care system was bad, but the police need to stay just like they are. Why would the police need to stay the same? Why is the military doing a great job? You know, at the end of the day, fixing the pregnancy problem or the abortion problem or whatever you want to view it as starts with giving people inside society more space, more room, more equity, more equality, more economic stimulus. Okay, so they can move around and make their own situations how they want to. They can make their decisions. They're educated. They have access to health care. They have access to a healthy nutrition plan. They have access to housing. They have access to transportation. All of these things end up to being a more equitable society. And you will automatically drop I appreciate the gifts and we're at 80%. Y'all run it up. That's good. If you give people these things, if you allow them to have not just bread on the table, but also put some roses on their table in the evening time, then the crime rates will go down, especially the violent crimes. Thank you, thank you, thank you. The miscarriages, pregnancies, unalivings, car wrecks, alcoholic unalivings, smurders, drugs, all of these types of things are going to go down because of that, because you provided them with human rights. You didn't take any human rights from these individual people. And for so long we've had that happen inside of our society, and there's still a lot longer to go. Now, I do think that we have a union, but we just need to work on Ignite. You're welcome. You're welcome to come back. After birth abortions. That's not true. That's not true. The word abortion means that you have to have a pregnancy to start, right? So you can't have that's just called a smurder. Okay, that's propaganda from right wing, think tanks. To your banned. Oh, you're banned from live. That might be the case for sure. I'm pro-choice up to 15 weeks. Okay, but here's the thing. Like, don't stop it at 15 weeks because we don't know everyone's personal situation, right? And we just have other countries have it. Other countries have healthcare. Other countries have public transportation, all these types of things that we don't have here. And to be honest with you, a lot of it has to go back to racism, slavery within inside the United States, and racism to BIPOC people, right? You know, and that's it's wild behavior. But like, I was listening to public transportation talks and stuff like that about like why Atlanta doesn't have public transit, why Harlem doesn't have subway lines in it like they need to. They've been working on 3 stations in Harlem for 45 years and haven't gotten them done yet. And in that 45-year time, Madrid, Spain has built like 600 miles of underground track, you know, but they don't have a place that's Harlem that's, you know, as racially issued as what we have going on inside the United States, right? So it's just tough. It's tough. And something else that like we were up here talking earlier about indigenous people and such, or we were talking about colonizing, and we were talking about those types of things, and people were leaving out the indigenous aspect of that, as in the European Americans were supposed to always be here. And the fact that like we took land from others to begin with. And I'm not saying we as myself individually, but we as a people. So we need to acknowledge all of the past hatred that's taken place and allow more people to sit at the table, proverbially. And just because you don't actively, you know, hate or racism or whatever like that, the system is built on that. And we've got to realize that like the system is still very much plantation life, especially in the South, right? So at the end of the day, you know, it's an issue that we have to make sure that we are trying to bring more equity in with it, right? And no one has it figured out. The United States don't have it figured out. European countries don't have it figured out. China ain't got it. I'm not saying that no one else has it down pat, but what I am saying is if we don't start having more conversations about it, then it's going to be another generation. Our children are going to have to put up with misogyny and sexism within inside of the workplace and all of that type of stuff. You know, I'm down south. I'm in Mobile County, down in the bayou. But if we don't have the conversations now, and it's the same thing, like I used to work with a guy that was part of the civil rights movement in the late 50s and 60s in Alabama. And some of the stories that he had to tell were just wild, you know, and some of the things that he couldn't do as a black man, even though he was ginormous. He was 68 years old at the time, and he was like 6'4", like 290. He was a big old dude. And he was just like, yeah, I couldn't do this and I couldn't go there. And we had different buses, and sometimes our bus would break down and they wouldn't worry about fixing it, and just all types of stuff like that. And it's just crazy the amount of, and that's his lived experience. That's not like stories. That's not in a book somewhere. That's not in the 1850s. That was in the 1950s and 60s, you know. Been denied access to jobs, all that type of stuff. And I'm not saying that happens as openly and honestly now, but what I'm saying is like his grandchildren obviously are disenfranchised to some degree because my grandpa helped me do stuff because of his resources. Mr. Ray couldn't help his grandchildren because he didn't have access to the resources that my grandpa did, right? You know, just things like that. But anyway, yeah, I appreciate Wake Up Trump 2024. You're silly. I'm not even if Trump was for some, I ain't even talked about Trump, I guess, because he's in there somewhere. Even if Trump was a good businessman, which he's not, because he's had 6 failed businesses. He's lost money. He's been in like 3,400 lawsuits, all this types of stuff. He's been sued more times than you can count. Union and blue collar workers won't even work for him anymore because he just keeps screwing them over. But even if those things weren't true, y'all go look at some of the footage and the tapes that he said about his daughter. Yeah, he's only successful because his dad gave him a lot of money, but he's lost all sorts of stuff. He's lost all sorts of stuff. Um, yeah, goes to Diddy parties, all that type of stuff. But he says things about his daughter. He was on the Howard Stern show, and Howard Stern was talking about his daughter being a piece of meat, and Trump was like, "Yeah, yeah, she look good, don't she?" You know, all this type of stuff like that. And I'm like, that's the worst take to have. You know, he's in the Guinness Book. I don't doubt it for the amount of lawsuits. He's had a crazy, crazy amount of lawsuits. If you talk to anybody from New York, which I've talked to a couple of trade workers from New York, and they call it the Trump discount, basically. So Trump would pay like 80 to 85% of the bills, and then he would just stiff them for that last 15 or 20%, and be like, "Nah, they'll be okay," you know. And sometimes that's the difference in between the business being profitable. So, uh, I am. If y'all want on the if y'all want to subscribe, I'm going to try to prioritize sub only lives about health and nutrition and such like that. If anybody's on Discord, if you'll go to my bio, I have a Discord link, and we talk on there while we having lives. That's always a good time. But what's up, PS?
Hey, sorry, I'm like really quiet. My baby's asleep.
Mm-hmm.
Can you hear me pretty well?
Yes, we can hear you pretty good, I think.
Okay. Do you know why like there's a disconnect between people understanding why people get like abortion services versus like healthcare and access to like finances, resources, childcare? Like, there's a lot of stuff that goes into it, and I feel like there's like a lack of connection because I feel like they just see it as like a moral stance instead of like an actual like I don't know, like I feel like I've talked about this subject a lot, and I feel like a lot of them, whenever I do get in conversations with them, they'll like debate me, but they'll be like, they'll use a lot of things of like my verbiage or like what I say, and like how far will you go, and sentience and all the stuff that goes into it. And I'm like, it doesn't matter, you know, like without the organic human being of the mother, that fetus cannot survive. So like I don't understand why they don't understand that. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Uh, I think that a lot of them with that type of thing, they have a consent issue themselves. Like they don't look at the woman as being her own individual self that's able to make her own decisions and such as that. I'm not sure if that's the case with all of them, but I feel like that's part of it is because they look at women as property. They look at female figures as property. They use female pronouns when they describe property. Men do it a lot of the times in cars and such like that, you know. So it's if it's something that they feel sexual about or they enjoy, it's going to be a woman, you know, pronouns and stuff. And they don't have the disconnect yet to look at women as people, right? So when she becomes pregnant, that is her body is a vessel for the future child. It's not for her any longer, you know.
Yeah, and I feel like they also don't understand like so back whenever like a lot of people want to bring up human rights. I looked up the definition. It starts at birth, and then they want to be like, oh well, you know, just because it's legal, it doesn't mean that it's right. And they always bring up slavery as like the inequality of um, human rights. And then I go back to that same scenario, and I'm like, yeah, well, back in the day, they literally had areas where they had to breed like almost like stock, you know, like they were cattle, like they were forced to have children. And I was like, that's what you guys are doing to us. And like, I don't
Mm-hmm.
understand how they don't understand that, you know? And this doesn't affect people of my economic status, you know, it affects lower income. I mean, I'm still like middle class and everything, but it's like these are really poor people that end up having to carry a child and carry a child and then have the responsibility of it afterwards. And I just don't think that's right. I think that promotes generational poverty.
It does. And so to tie that together, a lot of people don't think that they come from poverty. They don't think that they come from um, lower income or lower economic statuses. But at the end of the day, they usually do. I mean, at this current time, if you aren't making like $22 an hour nationwide is the minimum. So you need to make about $45 an hour as an individual with no family in order to live a comfortable life. So a lot of these people that are making 60, 70, $80,000 a year, they're economically oppressed, and they think that they're doing okay, especially from their childhood and stuff like that. They're like, well, I made it, so that being the case, you can make it. And that's just generational trauma in itself. You know, we've been taught and instilled with bootstrap mentality, right?
Yeah, I mean, I make $70 an hour, and I work 36 hours. I'm in a master's program, and it's like I don't think like my child's like daycare is $2,100 for 1 month, you know,
Mhm.
and like I don't understand like, and then also I put it back on them, and I'm like, okay, well, whenever I do have this unwanted pregnancy, and I do have to take it to term because I'm in a state that regulates this, and I can't obtain one, then am I going to call you? And are you going to give me housing? Are you going to give me childcare? Are you going to give me finances? And they're like, oh no, that's your responsibility. And I'm like, I literally was refused the right to obtain this responsibility because of your laws. And I don't understand how that's justified.
It's not justified. It's not at all. And the people that think that, like I said, they don't understand the system that's in place and the system that is skewed in favor of the top, right? So it's really it's really the issue is the burden is on that individual person to have understanding and empathy. The problem is that our society does not it does not push those types of social statuses to have as far as understanding for other people, right? It's a mine mindset, right? It's very much I'm going to be the oppressor in the situation. So
Yeah, I don't understand. Like, I think that if we lived in a perfect world where there was universal health care, there was universal child care, there was housing, like areas or whatever where they can improve, there was paid for like education and stuff, like I would want, you know, like I think that a lot of people would want more children. But the fact is, like, that's not where it's at, and that's not where it will be for a really long time. And I think I'm trying to find like some type of like understanding, you know, of like where they're coming from, but I logically can't.
oh yeah, it's a disconnect for sure. I mean, you can't get there logically because it's not logical, you know, and that's something that I had to figure out. You know, it's just it's tough. It's tough to have that conversation. And I alluded to this earlier. I made a little bit of content on it, but I probably need to touch back on it. There's 10 states in the union right now that have not expanded Medicare, Medicaid, Obamacare, ACA, because they feel as though, check this out. I'm going to use Alabama numbers as the example. If you're an individual without a dependent, $15,000 is the cap on if you qualify for Medicaid, which is government subsidized health care. That does not mean that it's free, but it's mostly free. So ACA, Obamacare raised those numbers, those caps up to like 25 or 30,000, 35,000, something like that. And Alabama senators voted against it because they felt like if they gave more people free health care, they would no longer be incentivized to go to work.
That's
The,
so fucked up.
ain't that terrible? We're talking about people that make $30,000 a year. You're withholding health benefits from them because you want to make sure that they go to work every day to be able to afford it them, and they still can't afford health care because it's $30,000. It's literally hardly no money. It's $2,500 a month or something like that. It's what your daycare costs for your child. That's what they're making in wages, and you're thinking that they're gonna not go to work anymore because they have access to go get a checkup. They have access to go get medication when they have a cold. They have access if they Lord willing they don't end up with any injury. But if they're out of work for a week and they need to get a bone set or anything like that, you're saying. And so the disconnect on the people that are making these laws and the people that have to live under these laws is very far. And that's why I've started to hold more and more of these conversations, is because we the people are underinformed greatly. So I usually try to make connections in how people think and how the laws are written, and then that way we can equate those two things together, right? So, but anyway,
That's all I wanted to say. But yeah, I really appreciate you doing this. And honestly,
yeah. Well, I appreciate it. No problem. I'm gonna go in and step you out. Oh, she stepped out of the box. But I appreciate the likes, the love, the subs. I think somebody subbed while I was talking. Oh, she jumped out. All right, I appreciate it. It is free. It's okay. P.S. Like I said, follow, and we're gonna have more of these conversations, more of these topics. Hopefully, I ain't got to get no four glasses going on. You want to own the means with your coworkers? Hell yeah, that's what it's about. I like that. Definitely unionize and co-op. That's the way to do it. That's the way that we used to do it in some scenarios. Um, but I see several people that are liking and following. I appreciate that. If you're in the request, please request back again. I was looking for more opposition. I found it in some folks, but I wanted to talk to it two or three more. But it's all right. But y'all like this? That's the south coast of Spain. It was pretty dope. Is anybody here in Discord? If y'all are, follow me. Add in Discord. It's gonna be a great time in there. If y'all like watching this on YouTube instead of here, Serene, you better hush. I did fix the link. The link be fixed. If y'all would rather watch this type of stuff on YouTube, I am on YouTube. The link to that is also in the link tree on the profile. I need a few more subscribers over there to start streaming the live on YouTube. So if anybody here fools around with that and wants to get over there, it's free to subscribe over there, just like it is here. I would appreciate that 100%. So no free healthcare is free. It's paid through increased taxes. It's not paid through increased taxes. It's just paid through the taxes that we already have, as in the $800 billion that we spend on government. See how that works? See that? Yeah, but I appreciate it. Yeah. Y'all have a good day. We're gonna shut this rascal down.